The rake is 10% of the pot up to a certain amount, usually between $4 and $6. You can tell what the rake is in the game you're playing by looking for a plaque like this, which is on the table near the dealer. Now, if you haven't heard the term rake before, that's just the term the casino uses to describe the fee that they charge to run the game. The fee is raked from the pot. Pot rake is the most common type of rake there is, but there is also something called time rake. Now, time rake is used in games such as Pot Limit Omaha or in higher stakes games, whereas pot rake is used in 1-3 no limit, 3-6 limit. We'll get to time rake in a second, and stay tuned for a bonus tip on how to get reduced rake. But now, here are 3 tips on pot rake. So what does 10% up to 5 mean in real world poker room life? Doesn't mean that the casino is gonna try to bust a $13 pot down to $1.30? No, they're not gonna do that. What happens is the dealer takes $1 at every $10 increment. So a pot less than $10 would not get a rake. A pot between $10 and $19 would get a $1 rake. A pot between $20 and $29 would get $2. So on and so on until you get to $50 or above. So a $50 pot would get a $5 rake, and a $100 pot would get a $5 rake. $5 is the cap in this case. The second thing you should know about is something called no flop, no drop. And that simply refers to the fact if a flop is not dealt on a poker hand, then a drop is not taken. Now, drop is another word for rake. It comes from dealers taking the rake, putting it in the slot in the table, and dropping it into the box below. So no flop, no drop. A quick example is 1-2 no limits. Say there's an early position raiser and they raise to 10. Everybody folds to the button. The button goes all in for like $200. The blinds fold, the early raiser, hems and haws, and they fold. So the button wins the pot. In a no flop, no drop casino, no rake would be taken. But in a casino that does take a drop or does take a rake, regardless of whether there's a flop or not, then the rake would be $2. The third thing you should know about is the bad beat dollar. Now, a bad beat is when a player with a good hand loses to another player with a really good hand. So we're talking like quads over quads or a straight flush over a straight flush. So that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, those players, as well as the players at the table, and in some cases players in the poker room, share in a jackpot called the bad beat jackpot. Now, the important thing to know is that the bad beat jackpot is not the casino's money. It's the player's money that is funded from this bad beat dollar that is collected from every pot or every hand that gets above a certain amount. In summary, the casino or the dealer is taking a rake up to $5 and then a bad beat dollar at a certain amount, say in this case, $20. Okay, time rake. In a timed rake game, players rent their seats. It's usually a certain amount of money per half hour, maybe like $5 to $8, depends on how big the game is. But as soon as a new dealer sits down, and dealers change every half hour or so, but when a new dealer sits down, all the players put in whatever they owe. And then the dealer collects it, colors it up, puts it aside, and then they go about playing the game. Here are 3 things to know about time-raked poker. The first thing you need to know is that time is taken regardless of whether you're at your seat or not. So if you take a lunch break and a new dealer comes by, they're going to pluck chips from your stack to pay for your time. So you can't get out of paying time by walking away from the table. The second thing to know is that in timed rake games, there's usually not a bad beat dollar taken. That's more of a function of pot raked games, which is easier to collect. That also means that timed rake games aren't eligible for the bad beat jackpot. You're only eligible for that jackpot if your game is collecting those dollars. And lastly, time rake is never combined with pot rake. It's either one or the other. You don't get a choice. It's whatever the casino decides to do for that particular game. So how do you get reduced rake? Players can get reduced rake if the game is shorthanded, which generally means 6 players or less. But there's one thing they have to do. They have to ask for it. They have to ask for it. They have to ask for it. Casinos don't advertise this. Dealers aren't allowed to mention it or tell you about it. But if the game is six-handed or less, players can request reduced rake. So you ask the dealer will talk to the supervisor will approve it. And then instead of paying 10% up to $5, you might be paying 10% up to $3. Thanks for watching and good luck. Questions? Drop a comment below. Helpful, hit the like button. Want more? Hit the subscribe button.